An ear-splitting klaxon ripped Lawrence Webb from a 500,000-year slumber, his cryopod hissing open as his eyes snapped to alertness and adrenaline surged through his veins. 5,000 Earth soldiers in the underground cryo bunker jolted awake as the emergency alert screeched and an AI voice boomed over the chaos. All personnel, report to battle stations immediately. This is not a drill. Sheliak forces have discovered the location of our hidden outpost. Repeat, the Sheliak have found us. Prepare to engage the enemy. Webb leaped from his pod, his legs unsteady after 500,000 years asleep. Around him, bleary-eyed soldiers stumbled out, shaking off the fog of stasis. A few grabbed the walls to keep from collapsing. Questions rang out. What year was it? How long had they been under? Where the hell were they? Webb already knew the answers. Earth had fallen to the Sheliak 500 millennia ago, before he and humanity's 5,000 greatest warriors were sent to this secret outpost for a last resort mission. Stay hidden and asleep until the Sheliak could be challenged again. He staggered to a console and pulled up the archives, each file confirming their worst fears. No other human survivors existed. Earth was a dead cinder, and now the Sheliak were coming to end it all. Webb realized grimly that after 500,000 years, their last resort had become their only resort. Webb, you're in command, sir. What are our orders? Thompson, his most trusted sergeant, rushed up. Around them, their brothers and sisters in arms were grabbing weapons from the racks, checking charge levels. Strengths were returning. There was no choice, no time to mourn or process. The Sheliak ships would be landing in mere hours to breach the facility and slaughter them in their sleep. Humanity's last 5,000 had to fight now. Webb turned to his small army, jaw set. We are all that's left, soldiers. The Sheliak want to finish what they started all those years ago, wiping every last human from existence. I refuse to let that happen. Today, we show those alien bastards what it means to corner humanity. We survive no matter what it takes. Gear up and get to the perimeter. Go. The soldiers roared in assent, filled with adrenaline and the deeply human instinct to live, to fight another day. They were the best of the best, and the Sheliak would regret awakening them. For today, after 500,000 years, humanity roared back to life, to wage a final battle for its very existence. The Sheliak scout ships descended on the hidden outpost like a swarm of metallic locusts, pulse cannons already firing. But the humans were ready. Webb led the charge, his plasma rifle spitting blue bolts of superheated energy. The cryo soldiers fanned out behind him, taking cover behind the rugged terrain and returning fire. Their advanced weaponry, covert recon armor, and combat exosuits gave them an edge, despite being outnumbered 5-1. Flank left, Webb barked into the comm. Draw them into the kill zone. His soldiers moved like a well-oiled machine, luring the Sheliak scouts between the jagged rock formations. Mines detonated, EMP grenades arced through the air. The aliens screeched, caught off guard. Webb pressed forward, cutting down Sheliak with precise headshots. A massive alien commander lumbered into his path, wrist blades slashing. Webb dodged, parried, then lunged inside its reach. They traded blows, the Sheliak's exoskeleton sparking where Webb's armor-reinforced punches landed. With a roar, Webb launched himself onto the creature's back, fighting to tear away the armor plating protecting its neural cluster. The Sheliak bucked beneath him. Webb's fingers found the weak point and plunged his combat knife in. The commander shuddered and fell. Come on, Webb rallied the soldiers. Push them back. That's when he saw it. A Sheliak unlike any he'd faced before, wielding an energy weapon that seemed fused to its very exoskeleton. It moved faster, struck harder than the others. The warrior fixed its multifaceted eyes on Webb. You are the leader, it clicked in harsh tones. I am Hydrus. I will be your death. They clashed in a storm of blades and pulse blasts, evenly matched. Webb gritted his teeth, tasting blood. Hydrus was good, too good. Why resist? Hydrus taunted, pressing the attack. Your hidden outposts are gone. We have purged humanity's nests across the galaxy. You are the last. White-hot rage surged through Webb's veins. He slammed Hydrus back against a rock wall, smashing its weapon arm again and again until the exoskeleton cracked. Those were just hideouts, Webb snarled. We are humanity's last warriors, and we will not go quietly. With a final crushing blow, Webb brought Hydrus to its knees. The alien hissed in pain and fury. Webb's rifle hovered an inch from its skull plating. One twitch, and Hydrus would be molecular ash. The Sheliac's eyes met his, defiant. Webb's finger tightened on the trigger, then relaxed. He stared down at his beaten foe, mind racing. A prisoner could provide invaluable intel. Hydrus had already revealed the other outpost's destruction. What else did it know? Hydrus! A Sheliac voice screeched over the alien's comm implant. Report! Have the humans been neutralized? Webb gestured to Silva, who slapped a disruptor cuff on Hydrus, jamming its comms. Around them, the Sheliac scouts lay dead or dying, no match for the skills of Webb's team. A ragged cheer went up from the human soldiers. But even as they celebrated, Webb knew this victory was fleeting. Hydrus's failure to report would bring the full might of the Sheliac forces down upon them. The battle had only just begun. Back inside the outpost, Webb helped his soldiers tend to the wounded and checked the progress of the cryo revival process. Over half his people were still groggy and weak, in no shape for an all-out Sheliac onslaught. We can't beat them head-on, Sergeant Anders said grimly, voicing what Webb already knew. We need a plan. Webb's gaze fell on the captive Hydrus, heavily restrained in the corner. A dangerous gleam ignited in his eyes. He gathered his most trusted soldiers, Anders, Silva, Takashi, and Brock. They listened intently as he laid out a bold strategy. Infiltrate the incoming Sheliac warship with Hydrus as their secret weapon and guide. Sabotage it from the inside. Buy time for the rest of the human forces to recover and regroup. It's a long shot, Anders said, shaking her head. But it may be our only chance. I'm in. The others nodded, faces set with... They had followed Webb into hell before. They would again. As the five of them geared up and slipped out to commandeer a Sheliac shuttle from the battlefield, Webb looked back at the determined faces of the soldiers still defending the outpost. 500,000 years ago, they had gone into those cryopods as humanity's last hope, its final defenders. Now, Webb would ensure that humanity endured, whatever the cost, even if it meant striking into the very heart of the enemy with a captured alien as his guide. The future of the human race hung in the balance. There could be no failure. The small infiltration team boarded the shuttle, Hydrus secured between them. Webb plugged the alien's DNA signature into the Sheliac systems, praying it would be enough to get them aboard the warship undetected. Brock passed out Sheliac armor, the team quickly disguising themselves. Webb gripped the controls, exchanging a terse nod with Anders. This was it. Do or die. The shuttle lifted off, rapidly approaching the looming enemy ship. Every human heart hammered with adrenaline and the raw, primal will to survive, to fight, to live. Webb's hand closed around the vial at his neck, a small sample of Earth soil, the last piece of their green and blue world. He would carry it into the heart of the enemy mothership, and if all went well, he would carry it out again, and humanity with it. Alarms blared as they docked. Webb strode down the ramp, Hydrus stumbling before him in shackles. The team fanned out behind him, pulse rifles hidden beneath Sheliac cloaks. Docking authorization, a Sheliac soldier challenged, mandibles clicking. Webb shoved Hydrus forward. Prisoner transfer, he barked in flawless Sheliac. For the High Overlord. The soldier scanned Hydrus, then waved them through. Webb allowed himself a breath. They were in. Now they just had to find the main power core, destroy it, and escape before the Sheliac realized they'd let a wolf into the fold, or 5 wolves to be precise. But as they moved deeper into the bowels of the massive ship, evading patrols and listening to Hydrus's gritted directions, Webb couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading into the jaws of a trap. Either way, They had to try. They were dead men walking already. At least this way there was a chance, a small, desperate chance, that humanity's last embers would live to burn again. Grimly, Webb unslung his pulse rifle, following Hydrus's gestures toward the ship's throbbing heart. It was time to cut this beast off at the knees and rekindle the human race's dying flame, no matter the odds. Webb and his team crept through the dimly lit corridors of the Sheliak warship, their stolen armor clanking softly with each step. Hydrus shuffled ahead, Webb's rifle pressed against its back. "Left here!" Hydrus hissed, mandibles clicking. They rounded the corner and froze. A Sheliak patrol marched towards them. Webb shoved Hydrus into an alcove, the team following. They held their breath as the patrol passed inches away. Once clear, they continued deeper into the ship. Suddenly, a lone technician appeared. Before it could cry out, Webb lunged, wrapping an arm around its throat. The alien thrashed, then went limp. "Low-rank drone," Hydrus said. "Won't be missed." They stashed the body and pressed on, finally reaching a massive chamber housing the power core. Towering pylons crackled with energy, feeding into a pulsing central nexus. "Plant the charges," Webb ordered, "quick and quiet." As they worked, alarms blared. 2 hulking Sheliak warriors appeared, weapons raised. "Intruders!" one screeched. Chaos erupted. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Jenner cried out, hit squarely in the chest. He crumpled to the floor. "Take cover!" Webb shouted, diving behind a pylon. The team returned fire, but they were outgunned. Webb turned to Hydrus for guidance, only to find the alien aiming Webb's own weapon at him. "Drop your arms," Hydrus snarled. Webb noticed the warrior's cybernetic implants, realizing they gave Hydrus an edge. There was no reasoning with the alien now. In one fluid motion, Webb drew his backup pistol and fired. The shot caught Hydrus between the eyes. Green ichor sprayed as the alien collapsed. More Sheliak poured in, unleashing a barrage of fire. "Fall back," Webb yelled. "Pulse grenades now." They lobbed grenades, blasting holes in the deck. As they retreated, Webb hastily reset the charges to remote detonation. Once clear, Webb hit the trigger. The ship shuddered as explosions tore through it. They sprinted for their shuttle, barely escaping as the warship began to break apart. From the safety of space, they watched the Sheliak vessel rupture in a series of blinding explosions. "We did it," Anders breathed. Webb nodded grimly. "For now, but the real fight is just beginning." Webb's heart pounded as he watched the mech crash to the ground. There was no time to mourn. He spun around, barking orders to the remaining soldiers. "Fall back to the inner sanctum. Move, move, move." The surviving humans sprinted through metal corridors, boots clanging on grated floors. Alarms blared. Red emergency lights bathed everything in a hellish glow. Webb skidded to a halt at a security terminal, fingers flying over the controls. Blast doors slammed shut behind the retreating soldiers, buying precious seconds. "Sir, they're breaching the east wing," a technician shouted. Webb's eyes darted between holographic displays. Swarms of red dots poured into the facility from multiple entry points. "Initiate Protocol Omega," Webb commanded. "We're not going down without a fight." Automated turrets sprang to life in the corridors, spitting superheated plasma at the invaders. The stench of ozone and burning flesh filled the air. Sheliak screeches echoed through the facility. Webb grabbed his rifle and took position behind an overturned desk. Sergeant Anders crouched beside him, face streaked with grime and sweat. "Last stand, sir?" Anders said, checking his weapon's charge. Webb nodded grimly. "For Earth." The inner sanctum's doors buckled under sustained fire. Webb steadied his aim. With a final thunderous boom, the doors flew off their hinges. Sheliak warriors poured in, insectoid eyes glowing with inhuman hunger. Webb opened fire, his rifle's blue bolts cutting down alien after alien. But for each one that fell, 2 more took its place. "Concentrate fire on their weak points," Webb shouted over the din of battle. "Aim for the gaps in their armor." The humans fought with desperate valor, knowing humanity's fate hung in the balance. Webb dove from cover to cover, rallying his troops and striking down Sheliak with pinpoint accuracy. But the alien horde was relentless. They advanced step by step, their superior numbers slowly overwhelming the human defenders. Webb watched in horror as his soldiers fell one by one. A plasma bolt caught Webb in the shoulder, spinning him around. He stumbled, vision blurring. Through the haze of pain, he saw Sheliak warriors closing in for the kill. This was it, the end of humanity. Webb raised his rifle for one last defiant shot. Suddenly, the facility rocked with a massive explosion. Sheliak invaders were tossed like ragdolls. Webb struggled to his feet, ears ringing. Through the smoke and chaos, he saw a sight that made his heart soar. Human reinforcements had arrived, pouring from a breach in the ceiling. Exosuit-clad warriors descended on zip lines, guns blazing. "For Earth!" the newcomers roared. Webb grinned fiercely, his fighting spirit rekindled. The tide of battle was turning. Humanity still had a chance. The deafening roar of battle shattered the air as Sheliak forces poured through the breached inner sanctum. Webb's eyes darted from soldier to soldier, taking in their haggard faces and trembling hands. He tasted copper on his tongue, the acrid stench of burnt circuitry filling his nostrils. "Hold the line!" Webb bellowed, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of plasma fire and alien screeches. Corporal Rodriguez emptied his rifle into the surging horde, the blue bolts cutting down alien after alien. But for each one that fell, 2 more took its place. Webb watched in horror as the tide of chitinous bodies pushed ever closer. "We can't hold them," Sergeant Anders shouted, her face streaked with sweat and grime. "There's too many." Webb's mind raced. They couldn't win this fight, not here. He keyed his comm. "All units, fall back. I repeat, fall back to the sublevels." The narrow corridors of the facility's lower levels became a nightmarish gauntlet. Webb sprinted alongside his troops, the screech of pursuing Sheliak echoing off the metal walls. Private Chen stumbled, his leg torn open by alien claws. Webb hauled him to his feet, half carrying the wounded soldier as they ran. They burst into the central hibernation chamber, a cavernous space filled with rows of silent cryopods. Webb slammed his palm on the lockdown panel. The massive blast doors groaned shut behind them, sealing off the alien horde, for now. In the eerie half-light, Webb surveyed what remained of his force. Barely 24 soldiers crouched behind hastily assembled barricades, their weapons trained on the sealed entrance. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and fear. Webb's gaze fell on their depleted ammunition stockpile. A cold realization settled in his gut. They couldn't win this fight. Not conventionally. He gathered his surviving officers, Lieutenant Kozlov, Sergeant Anders, Corporal Rodriguez. Their faces were grim, streaked with dirt and alien blood. "We're out of options," Webb said, his voice low. "But we still have a duty to ensure humanity's legacy endures." He laid out the plan. Faces hardened as understanding dawned. They were awakened to be mankind's final vanguard. This was their purpose. Anders shook her head. "Sir, there has to be another way." "There isn't," Webb cut her off. "You know what's at stake." For a moment, Anders looked ready to argue further. Then her shoulders sagged. She gave a tight nod. The others followed suit, grim nods, tight salutes. They would see this through to the bitter end. Webb activated the facility's outbound comms, transmitting encrypted video logs. His voice was steady as he spoke, despite the tremor in his hands. "To any who may find this message, we are the last, humanity's final defenders." As Webb spoke, the chamber shook. Massive explosions rocked the blast doors. The Sheliak were bringing in heavy ordnance. Webb checked his rifle one last time. Around him, his soldiers took up firing positions. Their eyes burned with commitment. We could not stem the tide, but our defiance must never be forgotten. The blast doors buckled. Twisted metal screamed as they were torn asunder. In the hellish light of the explosions, Webb saw the silhouettes of charging Sheliak warriors. He shouldered his rifle, took aim. "For Earth," he whispered, and opened fire. The hibernation chamber erupted in chaos. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Alien war cries mixed with human battle shouts. Acrid smoke filled Webb's lungs as he fired, again and again.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.